Hi guys, I'm Dave Krugman. I'm a photographer and the founder of All Ships, a creative community here in New York. I'm also the photography mentor for the Avaissance Artist in Residence program. Today, we're going to talk about signal in the noise, how to cut through the static in a saturated world. I truly believe there's never been a better time to be an artist. Every screen we have around us is an infinitely refreshing canvas, and those screens just demand content all the time. So yes, there are more artists than there's ever been before, but there's more space for those artists as well. And so I actually really like the supply and demand dynamic, even though it might seem like the world is saturated with visual creatives. One of our biggest challenges as artists in a digital age is that there are so many people that are competing for attention. The best way to stand out in a saturated world is to be unequivocally you. I don't say that as some wishy-washy be yourself statement. I mean that as practical advice. Being yourself assures that nobody can mimic your distinct personality and the unique thing that you bring to the table. Being yourself also helps attract the people that you want to be around. One thing to avoid is projecting a version of yourself that you don't really believe in, because what ends up happening is you will attract a community around yourself that you don't even relate to. And then all of a sudden you'll look back and be like, you won't even recognize yourself anymore. And so one really, really great way to stand out is to just lean into what makes you, you. Another really important way to stand out in a saturated world is to focus on the relationships that you make in that world and try to do what you can to maintain and support those relationships. We're entering a world of almost infinite aesthetic beauty. First, through the fact that almost everybody has some sort of creative output now. But we're also entering a world where AI is creating things that are very visually beautiful. But what AI doesn't have yet is these deep, committed relationships that we've developed over many, many years and decades on social media. So if you can focus on the relationships that you've built around yourself as an artist, it's a surefire recipe for success. And I think it's much, much more important to build a strong group of dedicated people than it is to have tens of millions of passive followers who aren't even really concerned about who you are as an individual. I've shared a few personal metaphors that I really use to help guide my framework in this space, but I'm going to use a more cliche one to illustrate another example, which is, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, did it make a sound? The point of this is that if you're going to make some sort of impact in any community, you want to make sure that there's people around to notice that impact, and even better, to amplify that impact so that that sound reaches further and further out into the ecosystem. If I had to boil this down to three main takeaways for how to stand out in a saturated world, it would be this. Be unequivocally you and find your niche that way. Surround yourself with people who are going to amplify and encourage your messages. And focus on relationships over everything. Because in a world of infinite aesthetic beauty, relationships matter more than ever. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that brief take on how to stand out in a saturated world. On our next episode, we're going to unite everything we've learned, and we're going to emphasize the fact that the end is only the beginning.